forget talking? What about stuff that's best done in the dead of night? Or what if that's the point, to do something not sensible? Hello everybody, and welcome back to the channel, or welcome to the channel if you're new here. My name is Death by Pony. Today we're hopping back into our life. So without further ado, let's hop in. Good night, Baxter. Baxter, this is your room. Wonder how long it would take for him to remember whose room he was in. You waved goodbye. We're gonna wait. Baxter left without another word. The door swung shut behind him. You sunk lower in your chair, getting comfortable as you waited for his inevitable return. Any moment now, he'd come tiptoeing back. Almost as if on cue, the door slammed open. Baxter came through it, walking stiltedly with the most forced smile possible. This one's my room, the other is yours. Your laughter burst like a dam, flooding his room. Ah, you were aware. Baxter's voice was polite but laced with embarrassment. He'd been gone long enough that you wonder if he'd actually tried to use his key on your room and failed. Rather than pushing him any further, you got to your feet. With you moving to leave, Baxter found his shoe very intriguing. I hope you get some sleep. Baxter hesitated to reply. You paused, sensing that he wouldn't answer. He just needed a little more time to choose the right word. Well, I do intend to sleep, but in truth, I don't expect it will be soon. I will be packing after you take your leave, and after that, who knows? That's a lot of words to build a mystery. What do you mean? Baxter chuckled and tapped his foot. I said, who knows, didn't I? You crossed your arms, unimpressed. He snorted at you. It was difficult to keep a straight face. He'd better explain too. Okay, that's not exactly correct. I admit, I know myself fairly well. I also am aware of a drink station in the lobby. It's open at every hour. There's also a fire that stays lit all throughout the night as well. I'm expecting that instead of being in bed like a proper young man, I will end up in the lobby with a cup of tea. Would you mind company? Now that's an idea. He's considerably. Baxter, that's a bad idea. You looked at him with wide eyes, intrigued. You sighed and shook your head. Would you mind some company? Hot drinks by the fire sounded lovely. You hoped that he was fine if you wandered down yourself. He narrowed his eyes and smile curved up more. Am I the bad influence here, or are we enablers to another? Enablers? You're not a bad influence, but we're a very bad influence. No one can make me worse. Neither. I've got to look out for you. I'm a worse influence on you. No one can make me worse. That is quite a bold claim. Is that a challenge? It's a simple fact. As you say. His amusement was tangible. You were already looking forward to the next outing. I'll text you when I've made it to the lobby. His eyes twinkled with a familiar mischief. You kept your phone close.
See you.
Good night, James, for now. With that, you twisted the handle and left. You made it to your own identical room, conveniently right next door. The door's deadbolt clicked shut behind you, and you flicked on the lights. Despite the new illumination, the suite was not as bright as Baxter's room. How was Baxter's room so lively while yours was this? You sat on your cold bed inside. A familiar carpet was spread beneath your feet. The walls were a match to the same pictures were attached to the wall. Physically, there wasn't a difference. The change was the fact that you were now by yourself after spending all day with Baxter's grin. You were lonely in its absence. But at least that wouldn't last long. You'd see Baxter soon, one way or another. The last and only full day of your mini vacation was drawing to a close, and the warm night pressed black and silent against the window panes. You tucked yourself into bed for a break, but had left all the room lights on. You didn't want to fall asleep yet, naturally. You idled the minutes away by counting the planks on the ceiling. Eventually there came a jingle of a text arriving. Unlocking your phone, so the Baxter sent you a message. It was short and to the point. I'm downstairs. He finally finished his packing. There was no need to respond. He knew you were coming. You wiggled out from under the covers and hopped off the bed, eager for this secret meeting. You crept into the hall, which was brightly lit, although all the other patrons were holed up in their rooms for the night. No staff were manning the front desk. It was dead quiet and still. As you padded your way downstairs, the omnipresent silence seemed like it was something you could touch, a thin blanket swaddling you. Your footsteps and breath felt muffled. In spite of that, the air was fairly cold. The ground foyer had high ceilings, and the mezzanine floors, a wide open space, invited a permanent draft. The central fireplace might come across totally pointless in the middle of summer in California, but that wasn't giving it its due. Now, blazing bravely against the chill, was a welcome beacon of comfort. Surrounding the heart was a raised stone platform that you could see a lone seated figure silhouetted against the flames, his Baxter warming himself by the fire. A paper cup was clutched in his hands, a pale film of steam rising from it. He hadn't changed into his pajamas, still sporting khaki interloper. He must have counted on nobody else being around to see that horror that late. The dull thud of feet on the carpet floor heralded your approach. His portrait smoothly transitioned from profile to three-quarters view. His eyes met yours and he grinned. James, glad you could make it. Me too. Those endless stairs almost had me beat. Wicked set of stairs, aren't they? We were lucky to arrive in one piece. Rolling the thin cup slowly between his palms, Baxter jerked his head over to one side while drawing your attention into a long table up against the far wall.
Very well.
The drink station is over there if you care to partake. A beverage of some kind might be just the thing to top off our late night rendezvous. Sure thing, I'll be a sec. You nodded. You could use a drink. I'll pass. You shook your head. You weren't very thirsty. Sure thing, I'll be a sec. But across the lobby, you stood in front of the refreshment bar. It was covered in a thick tablecloth color of fresh snow. A neat arrangement of clean crockery had been laid on top of it. There were a couple jugs of hot water and a wide selection of different drinks packed in individual tea bags. Next to those two, more urns of pre-made coffee had been labeled regular and decaf. A carafe off to one side seemed to house spiced apple cider. The meager liquid container was completed with 3 smaller silver ones, each one containing a different kind of milk. They weren't stingy on the options, that was for sure. You said go for water, cider, hot chocolate, decaf coffee, regular coffee, peppermint tea, chamomile tea, fruit tea, green tea. I love chamomile tea or peppermint tea at the end of the day, honestly. You picked up the cup and tore open the satchel and let the hot water run over it. The liquid turned a pale yellow, and the sweet, earthy smell of chamomile wafted lazily upwards. You snapped on a lid and ambled over to the fireplace again, Baxter raising his drink habit gently against yours. Welcome back. What's your poison? I went for a bracing cup of peppermint tea myself. I got chamomile tea. Delightful. A momentary flash of realization crossed his face. He let out a huff of amusement. It appears we find ourselves out to drinks yet again, James. I must apologize for the lack of originality. I promise to do other things in my spare time occasionally. I don't know, Baxter. Twice is a coincidence, but 3 times? That's a pattern. I believe most humans make it a pattern to drink liquids regularly. You snorted quietly into your cup. Maybe I'll have to look into it. Baxter scooted over on his perch, patting the stonework with his free hand to indicate that you should take a seat beside him. You plopped yourself in front of the fireplace, motioning the cozy glow on your skin and the heated slab beneath you. Baxter was staring absent-mindedly to the grate. As you sat there with him, enveloped by the warmth of the fireplace and closeness of her presence, you felt sleepy, safe, comfortable, like you could have drifted off right there. You were aflame. You couldn't have slipped. Hold on one sec. I have to look up the definition of this word. Just because I want to know exactly what it means. Okay, so excited. Yeah. I just wanted to make sure. Baxter slowly sipped his tea and then set his cup down next to him. I must agree with you from before when you said that it doesn't feel summery in this place. Especially right now, curled up in front of a fire, cradling a cup of something hot. It puts me in mind of a long autumn night when these days are beginning to waste away to nothing. This decor too, the wood, the stone, the grandeur. I might have believed myself to be back in my childhood home in Oregon. Really? He lifted a leg up onto the ledge and tucked his knee under his chin, still focused on the burning light. His expression was distant, wistful. Yes, it's one of the reasons I chose this hotel, as a matter of fact. Though I never lived in a building on this scale, the effect is similar. You could say that I was raised in a big, cool house. Cool in the sense of impressive rather than unheated. It was what my friends used to call it. I love it when they would come visit. There was scarcely anything better. They'd never gotten over the sensation of awe, and I ate it up. I like to think myself special in those days. To be young and innocent. His features melded into a form that was more familiar, a curt little smile. How strange. Usually I find indulging nostalgia to be an unpleasant endeavor. But here and now, it's easy and it's nice. I suppose it can be for once I can share my thoughts with another person rather than ruminating on the past by myself. His eyes peeked askance to yours before returning once more to the flames. You placed your hand lightly over his where it lay on the stone. You scooched closer just enough for arm touch. Let yourself rest fully against him, one cheek on the side of his head. You watched him in silence from the time being. Get all close and cuddly with your boy toy for the summer. He leaned into it and gave a sigh of pleasure. You had made him happy. It hasn't been easy to find anyone to reminisce with, not for a while. But then again, I only developed a sentimentality once I'd gone off to college. I was too young and proud of that sort of matter before then. There wasn't anything in my life to harbor much sentimentality for. I suppose leaving was the catalyst, isn't it always? But once that part of my mind had developed, there wasn't anyone around to share the emotions with. My classmates and I, we don't have that kind of relationship.
Well. Now,
this may be a complete shock to you, but I've been told that I can come across a bit too forward. I know it can be hard to believe. Your face cracked into a grin. Understatement of the year, anybody? And my intent to be open with people so we can connect. It almost never works out that way, though. I have to come to terms with the fact that I don't pose a knack for making friends. It was obviously easy when I was a child, especially due to that aforementioned big cool house. But now I keep finding myself at a loss for how to do it. With the hit or miss endeavor, the vast majority of the time I come up with a miss. Only lately it's been different, incredibly different. I almost worry my luck won't last. His voice had dropped to a low murmur, barely audible before crackling wood in the grate. It will all be over soon. It was an echo of what he said after your hike afternoon, but this time it was one small step forward.
I wish I could stay.
His eyes were closed now. A shallow crease had appeared in his forehead. You understood what he was talking about much more than your short stint in this hotel. I don't want it in either. It was wonderful while it lasted. You can visit again someday. Even once it's over, there are things to look forward to. You squeezed his hand tight for a moment. You slowly nodded in acknowledgement. I don't want it to end either. That means a lot, James. Thank you. He lapsed into silence once more, becoming engrossed with his own thoughts. You found that you were doing the same, dispart emotions drifting in and out of clarity. You both lingered a while longer, but your cups had been emptied, and the fire was getting low. Baxter sighed. Unfortunately, we'd best call it quits here. We can't stave off the morning by avoiding sleep altogether. That sucks, but it's true. You got up from the fireplace in unison. At some point, you started holding hands, though you couldn't remember when. You climbed the stairs and walked down to the hall in companionable quiet. Pausing in front of the doors to your side-by-side rooms, Baxter cleared his throat, letting a hand fall from yours.
Thank you.
Thank you once again for your company, James. It's been an enjoyable evening until tomorrow, then. His back was to you as he reached for his rear pocket, fetching his keycard. You were still conscious of the restlessness and sitting by the fireplace. Your blood was hot under your skin, and your heart was beating strong and insistent. Your insides were singing with a kind of want and desire that took the form of the man in front of you. There was a choice you might make if you dared to ask. Want to come inside for a minute? In my room, I mean? Are you positive you gotta go to sleep right now? It's a short trip to my room. Hey, you could come to my room for a bit if you want. You shook this intention off. We're inviting him. Baxter swiveled one hand still in his pocket. His eyebrow had quirked upward. His mouth bowed in a sweet V smile. What's missing me already? Much as I hate to say goodnight, I wouldn't be sensible to continue or try any later, wouldn't you say? We can speak more tomorrow. You fixed him with a deadpan look, willing him to pick up the hint. Forget talking. What about stuff that's best done in the dead of night? You sighed, giving up. Maybe this was for the better. What if that's the point? To do something not sensible? You flashed him a strange smile in return. You had to give up. Okay, but like, forget talking. What about stuff that's best done in the dead of night? Or what if that's the point? To do something not sensible? Let's go with that. He stared at you for a second or two, frowning slightly. You watched as his porcelain complexion was gradually colored with the mere shade of red. His eyes narrowed.
Hmm?
I see. He let out an unguarded laugh, like you'd caught him completely on the back foot. His focus dipped for an instant to your mouth, and he swallowed. If the invitation is open, a brief visit could certainly be arranged. You found his hand again, with yours pulling him over to door 194. He let himself be led, his grip eager. Together, you slipped into the bedroom. Inside, Baxter politely shut the door and less respectfully rested his spine up against it. His pupils had gone wide in his soft brow. He waited. You took a moment to take it in, the curves of his legs, his boyish set of shoulders, the swept strands of his hair, the nape of his neck. It increased that niggling tension tenfold. A hook at the base of your skull. It tugged at you more keenly than ever, perhaps because you knew this was temporary. Baxter wouldn't be near enough to touch for much longer, but you wanted whatever you could have. So you moved forward to kiss him softly. You playfully leaned in and kissed him, smiling. You pressed him eagerly into the door, catching his mouth with yours. Hesitated. Even in the anticipation was almost unbearable. We're going. He let out a hushed grunt and his head bumped the wood, but it spiraled down several octaves, transmuting to excited half-groan of pleasure. You pinned him there, your bodies flush. His kiss was volatile, dangerous even, a heady concoction born of pressure and heat and short, sharp gaps. Even so, every so often it would slosh over the sides, but the mess was part of the enjoyment. He smelled faintly of sweat and shampoo, and there was peppermint on his tongue. Over and above it, there was a floral scent that clung to his skin. It was fragrant scent that you experienced before when he let you borrow his shirt, his favorite cologne, perhaps. It was obvious Baxter liked your hands on him. It was in the way he moved under your touch, his legs and his hips, his torso shifting in an unconscious dance. Your bodies intertwined in stages. Baxter caressed the back of your head with slender fingers, his other arm around your waist. Your palms were to his chest, fingers clutching the shirt fabric. He pulled briefly away at his apparent tickled by something. You'd caught a flash of his canines. It's probably too late to return this shirt to its rightful owner. I have too many memories wrapped up in it now.
Settled.
My roommate will simply have to learn to live without the eyesore. Well, I'll get him a new one. You both shook with suppressed laughter, holding each other in the stillness of your hotel room. Leaned in and pressed your mouth on his neck, so you stopped there. You could have too much a good thing. Closed distance and kissed his face again. We're moving on to the neck. You heard him let out a gasp as you felt his throat quiver under your tongue. His pulse was there, rapid, passionate beating. You glanced up to see his half-lidded and his eyes half-lidded and peered down at you with an expression of complete fascination. His laugh again, the sound clear as steam.
You're very good.
You certainly know what you're doing, James. But before you could continue, there was a squeeze of a hand on your shoulder. Baxter had broke away, his grip tender but firm, his face turned, his eyes fallen to the door handle beside him. This was only ever intended to be a short encounter. That was the pretext you'd given. It was time to say goodnight for reals this time. I guess I'll let you leave now. Okay, then I'll let you go. You reached for the handle, making to leave. Stepped away, give him his space apart. I guess I'll let you leave now, then. Baxter nodded slowly, his attention only half there. He made it in sort of daze what had transpired. You were experiencing something similar yourself. He slipped into the hallway again. Baxter's gaze went with you, but you pulled the door shut, blocking his view, and let out a long, calming breath. You patted yourself down, hunting for wherever you had stashed your keycard, and happened to glance at the number you had exited through. Your attempt to be subtle was immediate. You reached with a sputtering noise. You were holding the card from the room you just left, shut Baxter inside your own room. You scrambled to unlock the door again, bursting through to find Baxter standing exactly where you'd left him, staring at you. He hadn't moved an inch. This is, yeah. Should I? Probably. You hurried, exchanged places, Baxter planting himself in the entryway while you slid it back in your own room. It was an embarrassing shuffle the two of you performed. Okay, so, firstly, that didn't go as far as I was expecting, so we're good. But damn, had me going. Then Baxter shook himself down, the mortification slugging off in favor of his usual assured self. He hovered his hand over the latch. Thank you for the wonderful, sublime invitation. It's been extraordinary. You invited me here first, don't forget. I should be thanking you. His eyes twinkled with a silent laughter. Mutual sentiment can be a wonderful thing. And with that, he was gone. The door swung shut as he went to lock. As he went. The lock engaged with a dull thunk, its sound cutting clean through the thrumming tension that had strung the air. Without thinking about it, you found yourself drawn over to the bed. Your head was totally empty. The last thing you registered before surrendering to the embrace of sleep was the cool sensation on your tongue, the lingering taste of peppermint. A new day greeted suddenly without warning, sunshine streaming in through the window. The curtains simply stood there and let it happen. You'd forgotten the dawn to draw them shut. The end of your miniature holiday had come. You promptly got out of bed and began packing, following your usual routine as best you could. You didn't end up seeing Baxter again until after 11 o'clock, as promised. He'd taken a lie-in after burning the midnight oil and had to make a last mad dash in order to check out at noon. Luckily, you managed to depart without too much of an issue. The two of you loaded up the car, set off for home. Home for one of you at least. While you were returning to your normal life, Baxter was instead exchanging one kind of vacation for another. Or maybe you thought, watching the California landscape drift past the window, Baxter was leaving his own version of normal behind right now. The mountainside lodge had been home away from home for him. A simulacrum of his life in Oregon, much more familiar than the sleek condo by the sea. He continued to reflect on that as the road rolled out before you. Occasionally you would swap comments with Baxter on random subjects. At other times, retreating into the privacy of your own head. Rapidly, your time up on the mountain was fading into memory. You were lucky you decided to have seen a small piece of Baxter. He had entrusted you with a shard of himself, a tiny spark of light shining from somewhere deep inside. You understood him better, even if only a fraction. That was probably the only glimpse into real-life Baxter Ward that you'd get. Damn. That was good, though. I thought that was going to be way more steamy than it was. But you know what? Not bad. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and if you did, remember to hit like. That way I know you're enjoying the videos I'm making. Remember to subscribe. That way YouTube brings you back here to see what's next. And I won't take up any more of your time. Have a good day, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye.